Aloha, Mike. Hello, everyone. Happy Women's Day, International Women's Day. We are so excited to have this very special panel planned for you all tonight in celebration of this wonderful day, celebrating the beautiful women and their knowledge, power, and unique perspectives that they bring to the world. My name is Moana, and I'm the host of the podcast here, author of the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series, editor of the Wild Card Chronicles, and champion for all of the beautiful Indigenous women out here in the world. And I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Dana Morgan.
Hello, everyone. I am Dana with Unique Events. For those that know me or may not know me, I am a cosplay event and staff con photographer. Also, I'm an event planner and do a little bit of everything. So thank you so much for joining us for this amazing panel. We have some amazing guests, so be ready for a great conversation and just a star-studded lineup today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with that said, please be sure to drop questions in the comments and we'll try to address them as we go on tonight. But before we bring our panelists on, I want to introduce our guest moderator. We're always excited because we get to have new voices on the channel. But tonight we are joined by LaToya Simmons, a fellow. She's Ohana to us, right? And we're so excited to have her here on the podcast. So we'll bring her on now. Hey, LaToya.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Aloha, sis.
Aloha.
Yes. So thank you so much for moderating this beautiful panel and helping us get to know these ladies and giving them a chance to talk about all the great things that they're doing. So with that said, we are going to let you take the helm. I'm going to bring the ladies up and then we'll start with a quick round of intros and then you guys go off and do all your wonderful things and we will be right here in the background with you.
Yes. Sounds good. I'm excited. This is a really great panel, so I'm excited.
Yes. These awesome, beautiful ladies.
Yes, look at the beautiful faces. Hey, ladies. Hey. Hey. Beautiful. Well, happy International Women's Day to you ladies. You look gorgeous. Hey. You're welcome. You're welcome. So I just wanted to give a brief intro real quick, and then we'll go around the screen, if you will, and introduce ourselves. But just as sort of a background to some of the people who are watching and who will be watching around the world, women have had to unofficially add the term Superwoman to our resumes. This is globally, not just even in the US, but women continue to break the glass ceilings in many industries. That includes the arts and sciences, which I'm a fan of, in the homes, just any arena that you can think of. We are breaking ceilings everywhere globally. And so this is a really exciting time to be alive. And we're constantly seeing how, as we're breaking those ceilings and as we're paving new ways for young women to come after us, we're constantly seeing how women are helping to change the course of history and pushing change for the betterment of all of us, of everyone. So for the viewers today, our panel consists of women who will discuss the value of creating a culture of equity and inclusion, along with some of the unseen warriors that are continuing to break down barriers during this really, really, really pivotal time that we're living in. So besides being strong and beautiful and fierce, our panelists today are also united by one special thing that I noticed that we have in common: comics. And just nerdom, period, right? So with that being said, just to welcome you guys all again, happy International Women's Day to all of our viewers who are joining. I've seen a lot of stuff floating around social media, so there's a lot of conversation around this, which is really, really awesome. So just to kind of orient us to this discussion, we are, in terms of how we're sort of defining International Women's Day, we're looking at the celebration of social, economic, cultural, and political achievement of women across the board. But of course, we're a little biased in this group because we love comics and we love the arts and all things nerdum as well. So with that being said, I just want to take the chance to let our audience get to know the panelists and the panelists for you to introduce yourselves. So we'll go around and you can tell us a little bit about yourself and then also one really cool, interesting thing that not a lot of people know about you. So we'll start with Chauna. How about you?
I just knew. I just knew it was going to be me. No,
tell us about you and something cool.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here and really honored to be in really great company, quite frankly. My name is Chauna Lawson. Some people know me as Cece the Geek. And in short, I am the founder, president, and CEO of HBCUCon, which is a convention that will be bridging the gap between two very distinct yet iconic communities, the HBCU and the geek community. I started pretty much, I guess you could call me a career activist. I don't know, but started my work in activism pretty much doing Hurricane Katrina relief. And ultimately, started an organization at my alma mater there. And fast forward, now I'm here. I just love helping people. I love uplifting Black people, Black women, and Indigenous and marginalized people around the world.
Gotcha. And tell us something really interesting about you that may be like a fun fact that nobody would know or not the average person would know.
Sure. My first job, I actually got into this industry as an event planner because I was a DJ. I started DJing when I was 14 years old. And my mentor, Curtis Cross, I still work for him every now and then, but he pretty much taught me everything I know when it comes to like event planning and customer service during events like that. So, yeah.
Ooh, cool to see. Next on my screen is Malissa. Introduce yourself and tell us something really interesting about you.
Ooh, I had so much time to think about this and I'm blanking. My name is Melissa. I am like just gone. My name is Melissa. I am a queer horror writer in comics. I write, and I'm also an editor with Scout Comics, and I do marketing and all sorts of nerd things that I can get into. I'm also an advocate and activist for more representation of Black women with ADHD because we don't get diagnosed like that. They don't know about us. So yeah, I've been working in comics for about the past 4 years. My first comic is a horror comic, diverse queer horror comic out with Scout Comics. And I have tons of stuff coming out too all the time. I'm tired, but I'm really good. Just let me sleep. It's okay. It's been a hard year. On top of that, one thing that's really interesting about me, I guess, is I still know the entire dance choreography to Janet Jackson's If, and I'm very proud of that.
Yes, sis, yes. I'm proud of you for that too. We might have to get together on the side and have a little relive the moment once COVID isn't a thing. All right, thank you for that intro. And then next on my list, I think there is LaShawn. LaShawn's on the screen next. So go ahead, tell us something about yourself and something interesting.
Hello, my name is LaShawn Colvin. I am a graphics illustrator, drawing all my life. I've been writing all my life. Stories. I am the creator of an upcoming graphic novel, Beautiful Soldiers. That's about it's about 4 young girls who each control their own element. And I got into comics in 2014, and I got into editing comics a year after that. I'm an editor with Short Fuse Media Group, and just recently, last year, I opened up my own comic book store. I'm the first woman to open a store in the South. Really. And, this is my second time on the show. On Moana's on you guys' podcast. So I'm really happy that you guys picked to be on this really cool panel. Oh, and
tell us something interesting. Yep.
Let's see, something interesting about me that people don't know. Well, a lot of people know that I am like crazy about the Golden Girls. I watch it all the time. That's one of my favorite shows. It's a show that was so above its years when it was going on. One thing about me is that when I go to sleep at night, I have a guilty pleasure and have Golden
I love it. I love it. I love it. Golden Girls. I mean, listen, they have withstood the test of time. Speaking of International Women's Day and celebrating women, I mean, seriously, there are very few shows that are like predominantly female cast and that have withstood the test of time. So I'm with you on that, sis. I'm with you on that. That's awesome.
Each other down like no other.
They do, right? A good example for all of us to sort of continue in that way. Okay, so let's see. Next on my screen, I have, Stephanie.
Oh, hey. Hey,
Yes.
I am Stephanie Williams. I am a scientist turned journalist turned comic writer. I still journal because that pays the bills. But I have 3 webcomics, Parenthood Activate, which is a story about me and my son, and sometimes my husband shows up. There's also But What If Though, which is like my living color version of comics. So I kind of play around with characters like Batman, Vixen, Wonder Woman, Storm, just kind of having some fun with that. Because out of that came Living Heroes, which is a mashup of living single and some of my favorite Marvel superheroines. So that was pretty cool that got funded and I was able to make that. And I just recently made my Marvel Comics debut officially in Marvel Voices Legacy #1 with the Monica Rambeau story. And then I have more news, but I can't share right now, but it sucks. But I'm writing more comics is what I can share.
That is extremely exciting, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Monica Rambeau. Okay. And then little side note for the people who know me outside of this, I do dabble in the sciences a little bit, so we have that in common. Nice to be on here with a fellow scientist.
And I got something that folks wouldn't know about me. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yep, that's what I was
because I almost got away with it. But I really love romance novels. Like I talk about comics all the time, but romance novels specifically by Black women are at the top of my list. Like my whole Nook library is just nothing but romance novels.
Nice. Okay, romance. Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am, for that. And then last but not least, Regine is next. Tell us a little bit about yourself and something really interesting that not a lot of people know.
Sure. So I'm the writer publisher at Lock It Down Productions. I've been publishing comic books for about 15 years. Really dating myself, Jesus. I'm also the coordinator and founder of the Women in Comics Collective International. We host events around the country. And since the pandemic, we host events all throughout the virtual universe. And we've been around for about 8 years. And something that folks would know about me, I'm a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I love wrestling.
Okay.
I love wrestling. It's like one of my favorite things ever.
Okay. Now, will we ever see you cosplay as your favorite wrestler? Can we look forward to that?
You can see me in a lot of t-shirts. I have a lot of t-shirts, a lot of cute little things that I'll wear while I'm watching matches.
Okay. Well, thank you all for introducing yourself and sharing something really interesting about you. I mean, I'm actually even more excited about this panel than I was before when I was trying to read up on everybody. So I think that in this particular group, we have a panelist full of women who are creatives, who are writers, who are comfortable in their own skin in terms of walking their own path, in terms of being creative and sharing stories, literally sharing stories with the world. So with that being said, I think my first question, I'm going to go down the comic book route, and then we'll go into a little bit of politics in a few minutes. But my first question is, unlike in the mainstream entertainment industry, in the indie industry, in terms of comic books and animations, anime is sort of giving more life to female non-binary characters as strong lead roles. So it's a really exciting time that we're living in. So how have each of you, in your own way, and I'll let each of you answer this question, how have each of you supported or given life to more powerful female and non-binary characters? Let's start with Stephanie.
I get to share this. So the artist that helped me with Living Heroes actually has a webcomic short that I love. It's called Bi Loved, and it's a story of just being bisexual and what it means to her. And I absolutely adore that story. There's also Wash Day by Jamila Rosier, which I love. It's a beautiful story about Wash Day. It's just great hair representation. That's something that I always look for in comics. So those are two that I can't stop talking about.
Nice. Let's see, LaShawn, you want to go next? Our other comic creator.
Okay, so I guess with me, a lot of the times, I can tell you, for example, one of the girls on my series, her name's Kasumi. Her element is fire, and she's my Asian girl, Japanese, and I really kind of play a lot with wanting to make sure that my book is very all inclusive with like genders, all races, all sexualities. I even have a trans character in my book. His name is Colvin. And one thing I really do is you will see him literally go through his transition from male to female in my book. He's my side character. So I'm really big in representing like everybody there is to represent. And with my book, my girls are multiracial. I have one Black, one American, and one Caucasian. Of course, the Black girl's the leader, and so I'm just really big with just being all anyway when it comes to my book, and when it comes to other books that I like to read, it's really sad to say, because a lot of the books that I do read, it don't have. I feel it don't have enough. So I'm trying to think of one that I like to read. For example, trying to think off the top of my head. Like, okay, with manga, my favorite manga is Sailor Moon. That is like the inspiration for Beautiful Soldiers. I'm a huge Moonie, very huge Moonie, and but there's not a lot of there isn't really any that I can think of from reading the manga and watching the anime, any inclusive character in that manga. Another manga I love is Tenchi Muyo. I think there was one Black girl. Her name was she had blonde hair. I don't know if y'all watch Tenchi, or if anybody has read that manga or watched the anime. There was a Black girl on there. She had blonde hair, but I cannot remember her name. So it just, to me, it's not enough. It's really not enough. So I use my book to kind of open that door a little bit more. I know we do have some, but it's just not enough.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. And I absolutely love how you're using your voice and your platform to breathe life into something that's either not so popular in terms of mainstream or something that people are just now becoming open to accept. So I love the diversity that you talk about in your comics and just being able to walk that forward. So definitely representation does matter. And that's part of the reason that this whole day and the celebration every March 8th even exists for International Women's Day. So next, let's see. Malissa, how about you? Let's talk. How have you supported or given life to more powerful female or non-binary characters?
Well, I work in the horror sphere, a genre that most of us love, that we do not necessarily get to see our own selves in them and see ourselves as strong without dying in the first 5 minutes. I'm talking about, like, what is it, Freddy versus Jason, right? Where, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name right now. Kelly Rowland dies after wanting to get a nose job and gets murdered sacrificing herself for the main character. Like, I'm tired of that. I grew up with horror. I love horror. I'm tired of seeing us kind of pushed to the back. So when I started writing and I got into comics, I wanted to tell stories about horror that affects Black women, brown women in very distinct ways. My comic Nightmare is about the medical complex and the medical conditions that we have, the fears that we have with being misdiagnosed, being mistreated, and our bodies being used for experimentation, historical, it's factual, and all of this. And that it not only happens to both us and it happens to, fellow brown women, but that we can support each other and uplift each other in ways that don't mean that we're competing with each other. And also bringing characters from different gender identities and like you're doing, LaShawn, which I love and I appreciate, uplifting and supporting different characters, different kinds of people, is I think Black women in particular in the creative field have a very amazing perspective and way that we support other women, even though we know that we're also trying to support ourselves. We're also trying to bring ourselves up because we know what it's like. So we're always going to be intersexual. We're always going to be working to support other gender identities, to uplift everyone around us. And because we do that, and because we try to do that, I think the world needs to take a little bit of a lesson from us. So I love to bring that. And I'm also in a very unique position as an editor too. So now with Scout Comics, I get to bring in new people. I get to advocate. I get to talk to people about bringing inclusivity into their comics in a way that gives me a position to influence, what's coming out next, how people are represented, to bring more education, more light, more sensitivity to subjects that we're usually just not really focused on, especially those being made by white men.
Yeah.
I see that.
Good point.
I mean, real talk. Absolutely. Excellent answer. And I appreciate how you're adding in that educational component. So it's not just about entertainment. It is about educating, about supporting each other and sort of normalizing that sort of support in our beautiful images. So that's awesome. Even as an editor, I think that's really cool. Regine, you're our veteran here. I know you tried to make it seem like it was something negative in your intro, but I think it's beautiful and it's powerful. So from your perspective, kind of tell us how you supported and given more life over your career to female characters.
Well, when I first started, my whole thought process was to highlight female characters because I saw amazing ones in the mainstream. And then saw even more so in the indie sphere, but it still needed more because a lot of the stories were being written by cis men, and so stories needed more nuance. And I really wasn't thinking about it deeply. I mean, I was, but I wasn't. I just started writing. It was like, that's it. It's like I had these stories and I just decided just to make every single main character, a woman, and didn't really realize like how revolutionary that was, until people brought it to my attention and I'm selling the books. And I remember somebody asking me, like, is every single main character a woman in your books? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Like it just seemed, initially it seemed like an odd question. It's like, well, is there something wrong with that? But then in addition to that, as I was creating stories that resonated with like my friends and like my female family members, and just sort of just putting different aspects of them as well as their life experiences in the story, and just to give them more life and more depth and more wealth. And again, not even thinking about it deeply, it was like, well, these are the stories that I've known. These are the women that I've known. So it was interesting over the years to see people like review my books and be like, wow, like we never hear about female characters like this one. That female character, this trope is never the main character. And I had to think about it. I was like, really? Folks have never seen that. But I was glad to be able, to do that, and just to be able to show characters in a different light. And then for me personally, when I'm like picking up books, what I really like now is picking up anthologies. And Kickstarter is chock full of them. Away Blue World is a really cool company, and I've done several short stories with them. And this is not a plug for them, but it's been really cool to go through their anthologies and see, number one, the amount of female artists and collaborators that they hire, as well as non-binary artists and collaborators that they hire, and to see all the different stories that come from those folks, and to see all the like the differences, and again the nuances, and it makes me want to buy like the next Away Blue World book, as well as continue to be a part of their roster of writers that they reach out to. And I feel like I'm probably missing like several other 1,000 anthologies, but Elements was a really great anthology, and it had a wealth of again creators creating the books that were of color, or women, or non-binary folks, or trans folks. Like, it was beautiful to see, and just to see all the different stories that they came up with. And I think there was a second element as well that came out via Kickstarter. So that's my thing right now, is getting these various different anthologies so I can get like a little bit of this person, a little bit of that. Like, it's just like snacking. It's like you gotta get a potato chip. You just can't have one. So that's been my thing.
I love it. I love this snacking, and I love that you said something that is so powerful. All you were doing was what was natural to you, was writing. You were just operating in your gift. And in doing that, you were birthing something that you didn't even know people were hungry for, just by being you and just by exercising your talent. So thank you for blessing us with that. Keep doing it, please. We need more images. We need more of our stories being told. That's fantastic. And last but not least, Miss Chauna. Can you tell us how you give us how you've supported or given life to female characters? I know you're into cosplay, you're into activism. There's probably even more things, but tell us a little bit about how you've given life to some of our female and/or non-binary characters.
Yeah, and I don't even know if characters is the right word. It might just be individuals, or because my journey is a lot different in the sense that I came into this space, doing activist work. So I wasn't really writing. I was doing, like blogs and stuff. I did blogs on intersectionality mostly, but never like writing fiction, writing stories in that sense. But one thing I will say is, particularly at the former organization I used to work at, which is the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. So you had two like historically oxymoron, like juxtaposition of beliefs together. And in doing that work, I learned the importance of storytelling and how you can really shift people's hearts and minds in one direction or another through storytelling. So in that sense, I would go around the country and we would do what we call compassionate care workshops. And essentially we were helping kind of coach folks on the issues, and every area or every group had a different issue. So you would go to like cities like Austin, where white feminism was a thing. So you had, or it would be present in the group, and you had to lift up or other voices, or you had to make sure that other people in the room got the microphone, or marginalized groups got the microphone, and that they were heard in a way that was raw and incomprehensible. But then at the same time, doing work in the Mississippi Delta, there was just a lot of like eye-opening experiences where I was exposed to a deep level of misogyny and transphobia and homophobia within and outside of the Black community. So I really kind of carried that everywhere. And especially when it came to trans issues, that was like my biggest learning curve, I guess you could say. And I just really learned a lot from that. And it was very helpful to me in terms of breaking down all the different dynamics in the geek community, having had that experience. So that was kind of how I fit in, and where I saw myself was, okay, well, I'm going to create spaces. You know, I wanted it to be my goal to create spaces for folks like Malissa and Regine and Stephanie and LaShawn to thrive and to have their voices heard and to sell their products or whatever the case may be. So that was ultimately what led me to start HBCU Con, because when I was at Bowie, you know, back in my days at Bowie State, that was where I found my people and where I felt like I could be like a geek, I could be a Black woman, I could be all the things that make me who I am at the same time, right? But so that's kind of like how I feel I fit in that equation. At the same time, I do want to lift up Regine was actually one of the first people I met in the community, and started following her work early on. I have a copy of Ice Witch. And of course I admire you as a creator of the Women in Comics Collective and Women in Comics Con. Erica Hardison, who is in charge of My Superheroes Are Black. They have meetups every year in New York. Cerise Murphy, the writer of Order of the Seers, and then she's got a con now, Virtuous Con. So it's been really humbling. Oh, and Jasmine Truesdale, who has the AZ8 Comics publishing house. She's just really cool. But it's just really an honor to walk alongside women like yourselves and to just to follow your work and to see your stories and your organizations and yourselves grow. So that's all I got to say.
Well, listen, that was beautiful. I feel like you wrapped that question up with a nice, beautiful bow with the recommendations, the love that you're sharing to the other panelists. I mean, you're a fan and you're a writer and you're a cosplayer and you start cons. I think it's beautiful, beautiful and absolutely powerful. And this type of energy here, this is what we need. Yeah, absolutely. This is the type of energy that we need moving forward. And this is the type of energy that we need to celebrate not only International Women's Day, but just women in general, women in the geek community, women and communities of color, period. So with that being said, we've heard a lot of your successes and some of the beautiful things that you all have birthed as writers, as incredible creators. But let's get down to some realness real quick. Let's be real with ourselves and especially with those who are viewing us, right? So each of us in some way, shape, or form has already basically said, you know what, we're part of the geek community, we're part of this creative community, we love comic books, we love respecting other women and respecting our journeys and supporting each other, right? And that's a great thing. A lot of us are into cosplay, we're into comics, we're into anime, we're into gaming, theater, movies, animation, whatever, what have you. But some women have often had to sort of defend their status within the larger community, the global community, and even here in the US, right? So let's be real. What are some of the negative experiences that you dealt with as writers, as creators, as a marginalized group? And do you have any tips for those of us who are watching, who are thinking about becoming writers or getting into these industries? So that's kind of a two-part question there, but who would like to go first? Anybody want to volunteer?
I'll go.
Okay, no volunteers?
Recently. No, I'll go.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we all have stories now. We all have stories now. So anything that you're comfortable sharing along with some advice for us.
Yeah, because I just got dragged for it. So I cover journalism in the geek space. So with WandaVision, the finale, wasn't too happy about Monica Rambeau's story arc in that. So I pointed it out. And also the fact that they had her catching bullets for imaginary kids that could catch them for themselves. So I wrote about that. And it wasn't a case that they sidelined this character from the beginning. They had bigged her up to be very involved with Wanda's story. So then why would she at least be able to face Hayward head on. She had been dealing with misogynoir from him, Wanda, everybody, and she didn't even get that. So I wrote a piece just talking about it. The whole entire season, I had been giving the show its flowers and doing my due diligence to highlight Monica Rambeau as much as I could, even though it wasn't her show. And well, why did I do that? Because, you know, a Black woman having an opinion on another fictional Black woman in these spaces never really goes well. And yeah, next thing I knew, I had to mute my tweets like I normally have to do because we're getting dragged for that and being told, well, Monica's story will continue and Captain Marvel too. And I'm like, well, that's another white woman's vehicle. It's going to be the same thing. So anyway, it's a lot of that because I found when you do speak up and you say something and it's not in reference to a Black male character or whatever, because had this been like Luke Cage I was talking about, it probably would have been fine. But that's happened a lot. And that's why I made a podcast where me and another woman focus on highlighting these Black women characters in the big two spaces, indie, to highlight them and say, hey, there are plenty of these characters around. They could have shows, they could have their solo series, they can have all of this. It's there. So my tip to anybody, mute the tweets. Don't look at the comments. And I know that's easier said than done, but your voice and you speaking is what's important. What people have to say, then that's not so much because, yeah, I mean, someone paid me to write that. So I said what I said in my piece, and that was that.
Hashtag you said what you said. Hashtag mute the tweets, okay? We hashtagging all of that. No, it's great advice, and I didn't even realize that you just recently got dragged. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for your realness on that, and you're right. The advice that you gave is absolutely right. A lot of times when it's time for us or when we create space for us to speak our minds and share our voices, if it's not within the confines of a box that society wants to hear, then everybody feels like they need to have a voice on Twitter or whatever social media platform you're using. You know what I mean? So thank you for your advice and for continuing to put your thoughts and your feelings out there, because guess what? A lot of us you're speaking and taking sort of some of the thoughts and feelings that we have and just speaking them out. So we appreciate you, and we're going to take that advice and mute those tweets. Does anybody else want to share?
I guess I'll go if anybody didn't want to go.
Sure, go ahead.
Just so I can get it out the way.
No, go ahead.
So my whole answer would speak from a creative standpoint, trying to let's see, being an artist in 2014, trying to break your way into comics, not having no following at all. Picture yourself posting your work. You're posting your characters, your girls or your characters or your in our time, we think of people. Only other creators and writers understand that these ain't characters, these are people. Okay, so you're showing the world your creation, and you get no likes,
yes,
no comments for months. But you know, just even if it reaches just one person, okay, that's all you care for, people to see this wonderful story or art want to about whoever. And I say all that to say this. When I got into comics in 2014, also the piggyback on what you said earlier about Regine was one of the first people that I had met in comics way back in 2014, girl, long time ago. And she was so wonderful. She was so nice. She gave me wonderful advice. I'm like a rookie here, okay? I'm new, just trying to soak up any information that I can to break into this medium that everybody wants a piece of the pie of, okay? So, fast forwarding, you know, I'm showing my work. Them 0 likes went from 0 to 5. And then still showing. Them 5 likes went to 10 and 20. Girl, when I thought I got 20, I thought I was select. Honey, with them 20 likes. People need to understand that when you're doing this, they see the glitz and the glam of it, all of the attention, or you're doing this and you're getting all of this, but they don't know. They don't know how much of your soul is put into that before you see anything. I've been in comics since 2014, like I said. But the past few years, I just started getting a whole bunch of likes and a whole bunch of comments and a whole bunch of recognition for all the years that I gave years for. And people need to understand, when you want to get into this, you got to get into it for strictly the passion, not the money, not the fame, not the attention, not the accolades. Because when you show those people the passion that you have for it, the money automatically come. Okay, so I remember I talked about this story a lot, but I remember before my mother passed. Okay, she passed last year. She gave me so much. Like every weekend when I would be off work from my job, I would go to her at her table, because I spent weekends with her. I don't have a man and I ain't got no kids. And Zena, my dog. Me and Zena would go to her house and I would spend my weekends with her. And she was like, so proud of you. And you're going to do so well. You're going to do so good. And the only regret that I have is that I didn't finish my book before she passed. She never got to, and I never got to tell her the years that I was in my apartment with no pot, no gas, and no food in my refrigerator, because I was making sacrifices to put all that money for hot water, for gas, to be a soldier, to make my dream come true. I about the 3 years hour or warm water on the refrigerator when I want to take a bath. Moana, this is my second time getting emotional on this girl show.
You got me emotional. Like, I'm over here, like, I'm trying to hold it back, but girl, yes. Keep going.
Really hurts that she wasn't doing everything I have accomplished these years. I put a lot into my book. I put a lot into my store. I put a lot into everything I do. And I think for me, it hurts to get to see all of that. You understand? So my advice to people would be, if you're going to do this, or if you want to do comics or get anything like this, get into it. The passion, not anything else. Do what you want to do because you love to do it. Okay? I'm sorry, y'all. Ugh, I would be the one.
Ooh, do not apologize. Do not apologize at all. It's a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and sharing the memories of your mom. And I think with your creativity and the way that you're choosing to move forward, her legacy will definitely continue to live. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and for encouraging other people who want to get into this, and not only into this field in terms of writing and editing and creating, but also in any field. I don't care if it's the sciences, if it's I don't know, stage production, it doesn't matter. I think if it's something that it is your passion, go ahead and step out on a limb and make those sacrifices. We only get to live once, for many of us, and so why not? Why not live those dreams? Why not let your light shine, and then let the rest of the energy and the rest of the success come to you naturally. So thank you so much, LaShawn, for sharing that story. So powerful.
Thank you guys so much. And to say up to the other editors panel, I'm sure you ladies have came across a lot of writers and a lot of creators who their editor over, and they get into it so easy, and they're going to have this book that sell out, and they're going to become famous, and it's picked up for this and that. It could happen. It can, but like that, it's not going to happen if you think it's going to be easy. And I've been editor of a lot of books and a lot of creators. And I have had a lot of creators that end up falling off because they can't handle it. They ain't got the money financially to pay their team, or or they think it's just nobody's showing, nobody's liking their posts, nobody's engaging with their product, so they give up. I've seen a lot of creators do that, and you can't. It was months and for anybody. 20 likes. I'm telling you, girl, when I started 20 likes, I said, oh,
he was like, I'm on the map, I'm on the radar, I'm doing it with my 20 likes. And I'm not mad.
I never in a million years thought that I would be where I knew I was going to, only thing I knew was soldier would change my life. I knew it, and I was there to I don't care. I don't give a fuck how long it took and what I had to do. Beautiful Soldier changed my life. And almost 10 years later, I've worked for 10 years, and I'm still okay. Now, store, and when I get done with my book, I was negotiate deals and trying to get my own book in my own in comic book stores. And you know what? Something registered to me. Why am I trying to get my shit up the store? Let me open up my own store. Have my own book in my own. Okay. That's what
Yes. I love it. I love it. So I have a question to sort of piggyback off of, starting your own, whether it's starting your own business or starting your own comic book or just starting your own anything. A lot of times we see women nowadays, especially coming more to the forefront in terms of taking those leadership roles and taking those initiatives. It's not just reserved for a cis male anymore, right? Which is it's a good thing. And I really, my hope is that our society continues to evolve in that direction for more equity and equality. But when it comes to seeing women come to the forefront in business ownership and politics and fighting for a change, it often feels like we have to sometimes carry the world on our back to correct these kind of ill-taken paths. So in your opinion, how have, and this question that I'm going to ask Chauna first, how have women driven change most recently in the United States, specifically the election cycle? So we're transitioning over from business ownership and comic books and writing and editing, and we're transitioning over to thinking about how women internationally and specifically here in the United States have really made a huge change in the recent election cycle.
Ooh, Stacey Abrams. Thank you, God, for Stacey Abrams. And thank God.
Yes.
Thank God for Black women. Thank God for Black women. That's all I got to say is and I think that particularly for Stacey Abrams' journey, that's something that's so indicative. Like I think of Ida B. Wells when I think of Stacey Abrams, or even Mary McLeod Bethune in that aspect. But particularly for Black and Indigenous women, we've constantly been at the intersection of this tug and pull of like white feminism on one side is saying, hey, we need the numbers for this movement, but you got to walk in the back of the procession, versus the civil rights movement, right, where we're the backbone of that movement and the driving force of that movement, but pretty much all the faces you see, all the voices you hear are men. So it's just been really an interesting moment in seeing how this is all kind of like manifested at the same time white America is losing its collective shit. Excuse my French. It's just really been a wild ride, and I think that I'm kind of I don't even know if disappointed is the word I can use in terms of like the political activity I've seen thus far, particularly from the House and the Senate. But I am glad that the Senate just recently passed. I think it was the COVID relief bill.
Yes.
Good. Yep. Yeah. But essentially, like Stacey Abrams, and even in Kamala Harris' case, that kind of isn't the personification or embodiment of Black women's history in America and really around the world when you think about it. So in that sense, I don't know. I've the past 4 years, the past 10 years really have been a wild ride politically, and I've just I feel like I'm stuck in processing mode. 'Cause like by the time you've had a chance to process what's happened, there's something else happens, and you're like, all right, what do I do with this?
Especially these past 4 years.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I've delved more heavily into comics and into entrepreneurship, because I feel like, all right, I got a little bit more control and more domain here. Because even in the activism and in the political sphere, it's like everybody loves you at first when you're the new hot shit, right? When you come into a space, especially as a Black woman, because you're trendy, you're cool, you got that element of cool. But then after you start checking people and calling them out on their stuff, then it's no longer cute anymore. You know, it's kind of like a don't shout unless I tell you to shout type of a thing. And we see that play out in pretty much every industry over decades, if not centuries. So I'm not really sure. I don't feel like I have like a answer or anything like super profound to say about it. I'm just thanking God for Black women, because they literally saved this country and carry it on our backs. But it's like, but also at the same time, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing that. I'm tired of us having to be the ones to you know, save the day. It's exhausting.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. Melissa, did you want to piggyback off of that at all?
Oh, I was just going to say, or at least I was thinking and reacting because I can't control my face.
Yeah, I saw your face. I thought I was like, let me ask Melissa if she gets something to say.
Its own thing. Okay, living its own life. I'm just back here. But no, I was just to piggyback off of that. I wanted to bring up this Afro. So I worked with Comic-Con reviewing comics and promoting comics and everything. And you know, that was my little time to try in journalism, and I loved it. And I got the chance to review the Afrofuturism panel at San Diego Comic-Con. And we're talking about a panel that popped on every level. I was just like, everybody just go watch that panel. You don't do anything today, go watch it. It's free, it's on YouTube, and it's still there if you wanted to check it out. But in that, they were
What's the name of the panel?
It was the Afrofuturism panel at San Diego Comic-Con. It's still on YouTube, still available, and it had some great speakers whose names I'm blanking on right now. But I've lived in that moment from that panel. I've lived in this moment. And all I was thinking about is how Black women are considered the shapers of culture, of the world. We found out through eugenics, thank you, racists, that we're the genesis, the beginning of everything. We started everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And, like, knowing that we are the shapers and have been, look at the stereotypes that they have about us in just entertainment as, like, you know, the mother, the mammy, you know, as the one that always has the common sense and nobody listens to us, and then they kill us, and then they're like, oh, there's a murderer. That's every single time. Understanding that, I'm seeing comments down at the bottom that make me laugh. Understanding that, I don't know if we can ever go back to a place where we don't have that responsibility, because we've been having this responsibility, at least for African American women, since slave times. It's been proven we are the ones that keep the family unit together, that create the culture, that shape family units. They used to try to villainize us for that. They used to say that we were too manly, we were in control of our family's destiny. Being that woman makes me proud, and it also makes me entirely stressed out. What I really want is, when I'm letting somebody know what it is and what time of day it is and where they can go with it, I want the credit for being that person. I want the money for being that person. I want the titles, the recognition, the accolades, and the high five for being that person. Because I've been this person since day one. I don't want to be a villain for it, but maybe I do want to be a villain for it. Maybe I do want to be the one to burn their house down and let them know. But I want to have the credit. Give me the money. And give me the stimmy while you're at it.
Got you. I love it. I love what both you and Chauna said, especially about really this plane that we're on, and on one side we're heroes, and on another side we're villains, but we're still the same person, right? So it's like, listen. If from your perspective, how you're looking at this plane, I'm a villain, then so be it. Give me my credit, because I have shaped this community. I have helped shape this nation. I have helped shape this world, even the political climate that we were just talking about moments ago, right? So if that's how you want to see me, fine. But give me my credit, though, where it's due. I love it. I'm on board with it. And I think maybe some of the people in the chat who are leaving some comments also agree with the two of you as well. I know we're wrapping up and rounding out our hour, but my last question goes to our esteemed panelist, Regine, who has been you've been kind of the connector, the one connecting the dots between all of us, and in terms of your longevity, how long you've been able to stay in the industry. So with that being said, the question that I have for you is, based on all that you've seen in terms of women coming and going in the writing industry, in comic books specifically, and even probably having your own stories and storms, I guess you could say too, about your interaction with males, what progress have you seen in gender equality in your life or in the field that you're in? Because there's been some progress. We need more, right? But what have you seen?
Absolutely. I think what I've seen is us standing up for ourselves more and more. Women have been in the comic book industry since the beginning, and that includes women of color, specifically Black women. If folks have heard of Jackie Worms, the first syndicated cartoonist, that's what I'm seeing most. Us being vocal, us being present, us being visible. Because for a long time we have been here, but we weren't visible. And we weren't visible because it didn't feel safe for us to be visible. There are members of Wink that have been in this industry for 20 plus years, and in their early years, whenever they would go somewhere, it was like, oh, you're a woman, oh, you're Black, what is this? Now people are not so quick to say that, even though you will have a few that do. But folks are not so quick because they see you more often. You are doing more panels, you're doing things like this, you're doing podcasts, you're present. There are events that are chock full of specifically women of color, specifically Black women. And people can't now say, oh, we don't see you, we didn't know that you were there. Women of color in comics is an anomaly. They can't say that anymore, even though they still try to. And so what we have to continuously do is assert ourselves and be like, we're here, and yeah, there are folks that are not going to be happy that we're here, but too bad for them, sucks to be you. But we're here, we're present, we're accounted for. So that's the biggest change, just to be able to say, I'm here. And not only am I here, I have a community. I have a community of people. I have a backing. I have a clique. I have a family. When we roll through a convention, we come together. We are a unit. And that's the improvement that I've seen, because we made that happen for us. Nobody else made that happen for us. We did that because we wanted to survive and thrive, specifically in this industry. And in order to do that, you have to come in as a village, and that's what is so beautiful about the Black community and the Black and Brown community. Period. Is that as a community, we know how to link up. We know how to get together like Voltron. We know how to do all that. Most folks don't. Most folks don't. So when they see you coming on Moss, they don't know what to do with themselves. And it's like, all you need to do is just take in the melanin, drink it in, and call it a day, because we're not going anywhere. So
thank you.
You just have to deal with it. But that is the biggest change, and I think that's the most important change, is just letting people know that we're here, we're not going anywhere, but we're in this together. And you can't split that up. We're not a shattered community, as folks like to think we are. We're actually quite deeply connected. So yeah.
I love it. Awesome answer. Thank you so much for that. And I think this whole panel here, we are living examples of walking out, continuing to walk out that change that you noted. I think I hope that it becomes the new norm. I mean, just having Moana and Dana bring us together for this panel is just another actual way that even the people who are participating in the comments and who are watching can see how we do have really creative ways of coming together, people of color in general, women not only here in the United States, but also internationally. So with that being said, that was my final question for the panel. Before we hand the virtual mic back over to Moana and to Dana, I just want to go around the screen one more time and tell people how we can follow you, how we can stay in contact with you. And I'll start with Chauna.
Thanks again so much. So HBCU Con on Facebook and Instagram, at Con HBCU on Twitter, www.hbcucon.org. We're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/official HBCU Con. And if you want to follow me, I'm CC the Geek on all platforms.
Thank you. And Malissa? How can we
All right, I was on
you?
Twitter following people.
Okay. Right.
I am Malissa Flint. You can see that on my little tag, MALISSIFINT, literally everywhere except for PlayStation. I'm on Xbox because I'm a poor. But yeah, follow me there. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter, where I talk about just being a horror geek, a Black horror geek, a queer horror geek, and a neurodivergent horror geek. Yeah, you there?
Thank you. And Regine, how can we stay connected with you and follow you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Lock It Down. That's LOCKETT down. I'm also on Instagram at Lock It Down Official. And for folks who want to follow Wink, you can follow Wink on all the things at Wink NYC, WINC NYC. Oh, and we also have a Wink magazine that's coming out, a literary magazine. We are paying folks, so if folks are interested in submitting, feel free to go to the website, www.womenincomicscollective.org. And if you want to see my books, see some of the work I'm working on, www.lockitdown.com.
All right, lock it down. We're going to lock that down. LaShawn, how can we follow you?
Let's see. I am on Twitter at team_beautiful. On Instagram, beautiful, of course. And my Facebook, a lot of people follow my personal Colvin. And I have Beauty Soldiers. And then my store also has a fan about the store and creators who want to book them for how to anybody who have a book they want me to check out.
Awesome. Thank you, LaShawn. And last but not least, Stephanie, how can we follow you? We know you on Twitter, girl. We know. But tell us how we can follow you on there. What's your handle?
If you want, it's @Steph_I_Wills, the same on Instagram. Do not send me no request on Facebook. That is reserved for family drama, and that's enough of that. So those are the places. I have a website, whysteph.com, and that's WHYSTEPH.com.
Thank you, Stephanie. With that being said, as you guys were telling us how we can follow you and stay connected to you, I was looking at some of the comments in the chat. People were talking about the Black girl magic just dripping off their screen. People were thanking you for your strength and sharing your stories. And I'm LaToya Simmons. You can follow me at Royalty Cosplay on Instagram. I normally cosplay in my spare time. In real life, I do a little bit of science work at the national level. But thank you. With that being said, thank you so much to our esteemed, beautiful, gorgeous, strong, extremely talented panelists. And thank you, Moana, for giving us this platform to be able to celebrate International Women's Day and some of the geeks and the nerds here in the creative community. So with that being said, I don't know if Moana, if you want to pop back up on the screen, and Dana too. We'd love to see your faces. I think they're coming back in.
Yes,
thank you both so much for having us.
You all were amazing, and an hour just wasn't enough for you all to just handle everything. And there's probably so much more we can talk about. And as some of the ladies know, before we even came on, we were even talking about a fun little thing to start doing with the ladies. So be on the lookout for that. Me and Moana's going to talk a little bit off there and see about us making that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just want to say again, thank you guys so much for being on. This was so much better than I had envisioned. So I'm definitely happy. And as Dana said, like, we could talk for like a whole other hour and still not be done. So we'll have to figure out when we can do a round 2, because we definitely want to hear more from each of our guests. All righty.
Absolutely.
Thank you, LaToya, for being our guest moderator. You did such an amazing job. We're going to have to work you into the rotation more regularly for sure.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Yes. So to all of our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for engaging in the comments on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. Be sure to follow us there, Moana Nui Podcast. You can find us. And then once we get all of our stuff together, it takes so much time. Our big vision is to have our website be like the connector for all of the wonderful guests that we have on, so that you guys can come back and learn more about them and check out their projects as things are going on. But we definitely thank you guys for your time. We hope everyone is doing well. And once again, thank you to all the beautiful women who make this world go round. We appreciate y'all for your power. And we will see you guys next time. Aloha, malama pono.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Yay.